The only one that is 100% identical to, and it's like walking into just frozen time, is Liquid Blues.
Yeah, but the people are different because I did stroll in there, and you're right. It's the
Yeah.
same exact bar, but I was like, I don't recognize one person in here.
Yeah, which is weird. It's just weird to me. I don't know where all these people went. So,
Although I didn't walk through the bar, so I may have run into somebody.
Yeah.
Possibly, but I just walked in, looked, and I was like, yeah, all right, but I don't see anybody, and I walk
Yeah.
right back out again.
yeah. The biggest change was Superstars turning into Barbecue King. That's
Yeah.
just weird going in there now. So
I haven't been back in there because I think that used to be our bar.
Oh, yeah. That was our
place.
Cheers. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
big time.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good conversations, man. So what do you got?
Let's see here. Actually, well, do you want to go into news now, or do you want to kind of start it? Because I think I got another conversation that might go a little ways. So I want to.
for it.
You want to
Yeah,
go with that
go for
one?
it, yeah.
So all right. So the other day, Saturday night, I think it was, Katie and I sat down, the kids were asleep, we were like, let's watch a bad movie, like just something, to kind of turn our brains off and watch. So, of course, we watched Expendables 3, and it was fantastic, don't get me wrong, I don't want it to sound like, oh, that was such a terrible movie.
Now, was that why it was good? Because
Oh, yeah.
it was so bad?
Oh, yeah, it was
Okay.
all, like, has-been movie stars
Yeah.
that are still totally cool, but, and just stuff blowing up. I mean, literally just turn your brain off. It had a good story and whatever, but just these old guys, Sylvester Stallone, going out there and just knocking people around and whatever. Plus, Ronda Rousey was in it. That's always a plus. So, but what we started talking about, my wife and I kind of talked about this a little bit. Mel Gibson was in the movie. He plays the bad guy in the movie. And I started thinking about, and we were talking about this a little bit, where do we as a society, and yeah, I'm asking you this question personally, but where do you draw the line between people's personalities in real life and their art?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm using Mel Gibson as an example, but I actually told my wife I was going to ask you this because big one, Michael Jackson. I know you're a fan. You're a huge fan of Michael Jackson's. Mm-hmm. And I know he gets a bad rap, and, he did weird things in his life. But where do you separate that, where you say his music is fantastic? I mean, he really was the voice of a generation, and he was a great performer, great artist. Mm-hmm. But his personal life was just totally bizarre. Like, at what point can you not handle that?
That's a great subject, and I'm glad you brought it up because this could really bring a lot out of us.
Yeah.
I'll even go one deeper, even too, and then I'll hit on the ones you talked about, where Bill Cosby, for example.
That's my wife and I were talking about that too. Yeah.
For the longest time, I didn't want to believe it.
Yep.
I love Bill Cosby. I love his humor. I remember listening to Bill Cosby himself, and it's
his comedy routine.
His
you
comedy
mean?
routine.
They're
like
fantastic.
and
Yeah.
Fat Albert, and
right?
So you hear it, and it's like, okay, yeah, right, not Bill Cosby.
Yeah.
And then you hear it again, and it's like, not Bill Cosby.
Like, okay, this person wants money, whatever. But
when you get into the 30s, though, you start to think like, wow, 35 women, I think, or 30-something women.
Some obscene amount, yeah.
Yeah, and then I guess now there's something was released where he
admitted to it.
He admitted to
Yeah.
it. So it's devastating to hear that. I mean, he was America's father.
Yeah.
And that could even go into another subject.
Going
again.
up with the Cosbys, the Huxtables.
Of course. So, and again, I always, for some reason, go into this subject, but America's racist, but it's like, well, I would have to say Bill Cosby was America's father.
He was, yeah.
From the Cosby Show.
Whatever color you were, he imparted wisdom. He imparted exactly what we've been talking about this whole show.
With a comedic twist.
Exactly.
And you listen to what he said, and he was always right, and he was... So I love Bill Cosby. And then now the reality is he did some pretty disgusting things.
Yeah.
And it's how do you get past that?
Right.
And the honest answer is I can't. His reputation is destroyed. You can never watch, not that you could even watch a rerun of the Cosby Show. They pulled them all.
They did pull them finally. I know they were.
To my knowledge,
maybe after like the 30th person came out.
Yeah, to my knowledge, you can't even find the Cosby Show on TV anymore. And it's sad for the other actors in the show that were involved in it, but his name's on it. You know?
I mean, it's called The Cosby Show. It's not called The Theo Show. So
Right. And, it's sad because, I mean, he's an older man now, and forever going forward, his reputation, his comedy, it's destroyed.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, he would have. We talk about legacy,
Yeah.
right? And leaving our children legacy. His legacy is he's a serial rapist.
Yeah, it's tarnished. It's completely ruined.
Completely tarnished,
Yeah.
completely ruined. He's a criminal.
Yep.
And it's sad because you don't want to believe it, and it sucks, and it's almost like painful. You feel like a part of you is your youth is destroyed.
It is, yeah. I mean, and that's how, Mel Gibson is the same way. That's why I brought
Yes,
him up.
yeah.
Because obviously he wasn't a rapist, but he was anti-Semitic. He had that whole big thing about he was ragging on that cop, the female cop, and he called her some pretty nasty things.
Mm-hmm.
And then he went into the big Jewish rant, or the anti-Jewish rant, rather. And to me, that's absurd. I mean, I think that as an actor, he's fantastic. I mean, if I could segregate those two things, where I have to look at his acting and I say, okay, he was great. But I grew up, Lethal Weapon was a great movie. Maverick, I grew up on Maverick. So, and I agree, it's hard to separate those two, which is probably why I didn't mind him in The Expendables, because he was playing a horrible human being as a villain. But Michael Jackson was the same thing for me. Like, I love his music. I still listen to his music.
course.
And I mean, when Beat It comes on, if you don't dance, there's something wrong with you, or you're a communist. Like, but yeah, I mean, so that's why I was curious what your thoughts were on that whole subject.
Yeah, going back, I'll get to Michael.
Yeah,
going back
yeah.
to Mel Gibson, the difference with Mel Gibson, I agree with everything you said. No debate there whatsoever. This isn't a debate, but the only difference really is words versus actions.
Actions, yeah.
Right? Yeah, I can watch a Mel Gibson movie and still appreciate it as this is a good movie. He's a great actor and a great director too.
He is, yes.
Passion of the Christ, great
Yeah.
movie.
He did that Apocalypse.
There you go.
Yeah.
Love that movie.
Yeah.
It's like Bugs Bunny in a serious movie.
Right,
If you
right.
think of the way he's being chased and
Yeah.
the traps, and it's almost like Home Alone.
Yeah.
Great movie. So I can look at Mel Gibson's art and his creativity and his acting and his humor. He's very humorous.
Right.
And I can separate it from, I don't know if I'd call him a racist, although he did say some racist things. There's a little bit, and a lot of it with Mel Gibson for me, is I've done some stupid things when I've been drinking. I think he may have a drinking problem, and he gets loose lips when he's drunk.
Right.
But sometimes people do say when you're drunk, you say what's really in your heart.
In vino veritas. Yeah.
So I don't know. I can draw a line with Mel. I can make the separation with Mel Gibson only because it's words versus actions.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't agree with what he said in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
Ridiculous words that he said. Always drunk though.
Yeah.
Always drunk talk. And again, I've done stupid things that when I was drunk that I know I'm like, why did I say that? Or
Yeah.
why did I do that? And the only answer was I was drunk, and I haven't been drunk in a long time. But,
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know why I'm drawing out my long.
Right.
I did it
Long
twice
time.
tonight,
Right,
and I'm
yeah,
like,
you
I
did,
never
yeah.
do that either.
Right.
It's like when I just did it the second time, I'm like, why did you just do that again?
Are you drunk right now? Is that what
Yeah. So
But going just kind of a sidebar before
Yeah,
I get
go for it.
Jacko there. But whereas I can still watch old Mel Gibson movies, whatever. But as a person, I can't respect him anymore. Like if he came out, obviously Expendables, like I said, that was an ensemble cast. But I don't think I would be able to go and watch a Mel Gibson movie with Mel Gibson if they did Maverick 2, let's just say, for argument's sake. I don't think I could go and throw my money at that movie because that's in support of him, and he's what he said was awful. And what's happened more recent, because his whole anti-Semitic rant was years and years ago. It doesn't change that it was awful, but it was years ago. But currently, Hulkamania, Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
And I mean that's basically the same premise.
Yeah,
what he
right.
was saying, although Hulk Hogan wasn't drunk when he was saying this stuff.
Yeah.
And that's one of those where it was odd to me because he said some stuff. I realized that he said some stuff that was awful and it was stupid. But I was surprised at how many people got behind him on that. I saw like a lot of the celebrities, a lot of the WWF guys. I don't follow wrestling, so
Yeah, I don't
whatever. But I saw a lot of those guys come out and say, no, he's all right, he's a good guy, and blah, blah, blah. And even The Rock, who I love The Rock. I think The Rock is fantastic. And
Very
he's,
talented.
Yeah, he's talented, he's funny, and I don't know if you've ever read any of his, I follow him on Instagram and stuff, but you want to talk about somebody who's pushing success. If we could get The Rock on this show, that's... But no, I mean, but even he came out and he said, he was kind of supporting Hulk Hogan and saying, you said some bad things, but he didn't mean it. He's actually a good guy. And it kind of threw me off a little bit because I was like, well, he said some awful things.
You know why I think The Rock did that? I think Rock's a good guy. I think he's integrity, and he just, I think he's showing, The Rock is showing his true colors. In other words, he's just a good guy.
Yeah, I can see that, yeah.
Good-natured guy, and I don't think I think he forgives easy.
Yeah.
So in other words, he's not going to let this define maybe his perception of Hulk Hogan. I'm not a fan of wrestling either. I really don't. I know my mother-in-law and father-in-law, stepfather-in-law, they're really into it. And we go there and when we visit them, and it's kind of funny because it'll be we'll watch it with them and roll our eyes, but then it's kind of you kind of get into the weird fake soap opera.
Yeah, right.
I'm remember that guy last night? He was talking,
right.
And it's wait, why am I even talking about this? I feel like I'm getting sucked in. But no, I'm not into it at all. Dude, I tell you, it's hard to say. Again, if you could isolate certain things that I've said, and it would probably look bad.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm sure the things you've said, and we could do that with anybody. So I'm not supporting Hulk Hogan at all.
No, right.
It's one of those things. I guess I'm just a little indifferent because I live in a glass house. In other words,
yeah.
So I'm not. It's hard for me to throw stones because I know where I live. I've done some things. I've said some things I probably shouldn't have that now I regret. I guess if you look at Mel Gibson and Hulk Hogan and put them in the same category, because I guess it kind of is. It's the words.
Yeah.
But also what I'd like to see from both of them. You know what I think would make a difference with Mel Gibson that I don't believe he's done, and I could be wrong. I think if he made a public apology. So if Mel Gibson maybe came out, had a little bit of a press conference, he might think, oh, I shouldn't have to, I don't need to, and maybe he's right, kind of, But maybe if he did publicly say, look, I said some disgusting things, I'm sorry, I really, and really a heartfelt type of an apology.
Yeah, not just, coming out there and being forced at gunpoint, right?
Yeah, maybe he could change his career because I think as far as his, to make fun of Jewish people in Hollywood, he kind of doomed his career.
Oh, totally,
you really think about it. You
know?
I
mean, you look even back further. Look at Michael Richards. You're a big Seinfeld fan, but his whole meltdown that he had was that about 5 years ago, where he was up on stage being heckled by somebody, and he started dropping some...
you know what, though? In his defense, and not because I'm a Seinfeld fan, and it's not defending what he did, but he was being heckled. I think he exploded, and he definitely said some awful words that you should not have said.
Yeah.
I agree with that 100%. You should not have. But I don't think he's a racist. I just think he exploded and probably some... But you also say, when you squeeze an orange, what comes out? Orange juice.
Yeah.
So if it's in you, someone... You're not going to get that word out of me.
No, right.
You know what I'm saying? It's just not going to come out of my mouth unless I'm quoting a rap song or whatever.
Right. I mean, I don't think it's a word that should be used anyway, but I see what you're saying. Yeah. I mean, if you're using it in a quotation mark, that's a different story.
Yeah. So that's a tough one too. You're bringing up some good subjects because they are hard to define. Again, you're not going to get that word out of me. I'm not going to call someone that word ever. It's not going to come out of my mouth. You know? I don't like the word. I've said that before on the show. I've heard other people say it before.
It just makes me feel like I need to go take a shower.
It is a disgusting word. I cringe when I hear it. I don't like that word. I don't associate with people who would ever say that word.
Yeah.
So that's a hard thing. My honest opinion, and these are celebrities. We don't know them.
Absolutely,
I don't think he's a racist. I just think he exploded and some bad words came out of his mouth. Yeah.
I think that, like you said before, what happens when you squeeze an orange. So I think that was somewhere within him that he was upset.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I agree that sometimes I get upset and I say things that I don't mean. That's just what it is. But again, I'm not going to say things like that word if I'm upset, because that's not the word that I believe in. If that was to come up, where I say that word, I can't even imagine a situation where I would use that. I guess is what it really boils down to. And Michael Richards seems, and again, we don't know him, seems like a smart guy.
We're only speculating.
Right. He seemed like a smart guy. He's obviously he was on Seinfeld. He was a stand-up comedian. He had a good career going. And so for him to lose his temper that much and use those words, and it wasn't even just the words, it was what he said as well. I mean, there was other things that he said within that. But you want to talk about killing your career. That guy, he hasn't done anything since that, right?
The way I heard it before is he wasn't even using it as a hate word, okay?